Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Abe with MysticGenmara.com, a small town mystic from the middle of Idaho. And tonight we are going to wander back to something that we did a little while ago. But I feel like this is an important thing to revisit each year, so we're going to go over this again. And tonight is Yule, and it is the 21st of December. There is a little bit of fluctuation if you follow the zodiac really closely, but for the most part, the 21st is a good set point for the winter solstice. And that is the shortest day of the year, and it also is the longest night. With that being said, this is also a time of great celebration. Let me turn my music on because I forgot to do that. Boop, there we go. I think. uh, this is the rebirth of the sun god that descended into the underworld on Samhain. In the ancient times, the older times, you can call them the pagan times if you would like, this was a time when the goddess would birth the god back into the human world from the depths of darkness. And before we get too Victorian in our thoughts, just be aware that in the old days, the gods were not like humanity and often bred with their own family. If you don't believe me, you can always look back to the ancient Greek gods. There's one in particular that comes to mind who was a little amorous, to say the least. And that would be Zeus, if you needed to double check that information, because it is definitely a little bit interesting when you start looking into Zeus's history, because wow. But during Yule, and this goes back to very, very ancient times, because this was the dark time, gifts were often exchanged in celebration that the sun had returned to the world of the living. The sun and the moon ruled a great deal of the ancients' patterns of life, so the sun returning was a time for joy. And a lot of the time during the quiet period, is like what I like to call it, from Samhain to Yule, was spent at home, kind of putting things to bed, doing a lot of home chores, stuff that needed to be done inside, making sure the last of the meat was put up, the last of the crops were dealt with, double checking that you had, wood if you were in a northern territory for heat, and making sure your animals were protected, things like that, getting ready for the cold darkness to come. So these were very, very important celestial times. And a lot of the beliefs that we see today, going back through this, these were like key times of the year, Yule and Samhain and all the rest of them. So the sun returning at this time, was to warm and save us from the darkness that was and is such a strong theme amongst our elders. Even with the rise of Christianity, they could not stop this ancient practice. Especially at this time of the year, they were able to swipe a couple of the other ones, but they could not get rid of Yule. So the church of the time, the Catholic Church, supported by the Roman Empire, adjusted their time frame and said that this was the day Jesus was born. So the Son of God returned to save the world, as the sun in the pagan traditions, Sun, S-U-N, returned to earth to save us from the darkness. The Lord leaving the underworld, conquering death, returning to life. Sounds very similar, doesn't it? But the reality is a lot of the old scholars will say outright that the time of the Jesus birth period would have been somewhere February to April. They can't pick an exact date, but with the type of things that were going on in that time, that was not a December period. There are people who argue about that, and they will argue till the end of time. Just going by my research, there's some the reason the 25th was picked for Christmas was as a way to lure people away from Yule, But oddly enough, Yule just wouldn't go away. So, that's just like with Easter and Ostara. Didn't leave. Beltane, May 1st, is one of the few that the Catholics and the Romans at that time could not figure out a way to adjust. They also have a hard time with Samhain, so they tried to make it evil and stuck their All Hallows Eve and All Saints Day, or All Saints Day and All Souls Day right around that time as well. But the ancient celebrations don't really disappear, and if you're sensitive to the time changes, especially the energetic ones, deep inside you feel those shifts of the ancient Sabbats. So just something to be mindful of. Many of the ways that we celebrate Christmas today comes from the ancient Yule traditions, and what we have today is a conglomeration of a great deal of the ancient traditions. The yummy rolled cake that we like, the Yule log, was originally a log that was only used, it was an actual physical log that you would burn, and there are a few of the older movies, if you look around for them, that still talk about burning a Yule log, but now we use them into cake form. They're fine. It's the ritual that goes along with it that's important. Pardon me? The original log, though, and this is something that I like to bring up, was a physical log, and different cultures had different beliefs. Some would burn it for a set period of time each day for 12 nights, and then place the cooled coals and ashes under the bed of the primary couple who reside in the house, so the mother and father, those who were in control of the house, basically. Others would burn the log to ash on Yule Eve, which would have been last night, adding their hopes and prayers to the flames until the log was reduced to ashes. Some groups never used a log, but an exceptionally large candle that was lit on the eve before Yule, which would have been last night, and let to burn completely out. And you would whisper your wishes into the candle flames while it burned, which is a very romanticized way of writing a letter to Santa, who, by the way, origins go back to Odin in his form of Woden, who would wear a blue robe accented in white, ride a gray stallion, and deliver gifts throughout this particular night especially. So even our Santa Claus that we have today goes back to the ancient pagans. And pagan is a derogatory term now, but back in the day that was just a religious group. So another tradition that has been adopted and brought forward is wassailing. Today we would call it caroling and door-to-door type stuff, which the way that the last few years have went has really died off, and I will say that over the years I have been in different towns and different environments where that actually was a thing. People would go door to door, sing a carol or two, and you could give them, like if some of them were doing it for a church, so you could tip the church money, or you could offer them drinks or cookies or whatever. But it was something that was pretty common. I did it when I was growing up. We would go to the old folks' home, especially in the town that I lived in, and we would sing as like a church or a school group. We would sing to the whole group, and then the people who were basically bedridden and couldn't leave, we would break up into smaller groups, and then we would go to different aspects of the old folks' home at the time, and that's where we would do that. And I don't care what anyone says about the PC version of that. That's what I've always called it, and that's what I always will, so there's that. But it was that's something that we did growing up, and it was, to me, it was very important. And now that I'm older, I really do pay attention to such things. So if there's an opportunity for you to be able to do that, that's something that's really good to do during this time. But in the old times, the wassailing would be to sing in cold orchids orchids, to encourage the trees to produce more fruit for the next year. You would sing in your fields to let the ground rest, but remind it come spring, you have a crop to offer. You would offer things like food and wine sometimes to the trees and to the plants as a way to encourage this. And you could also go to your neighbors, and this is where some of like our modern day beverages, especially at this time, come from, because wassail, which was actually a spiced ale, would be made from that year's crops, and it would be, of course, fermented. So, and then they would take the wassail and sing to the neighbors. They would offer drinks. Sometimes the groups themselves would take the drinks and the snacks, and they would sing, and they would offer the host, who was, coming out of their house to listen, or the neighborhood, drinks from the cauldron or snacks that were baked that day, things like that. And then you'd give them little gifts. Sometimes it was financial, sometimes it was just like little corn dollies and things like that. But it was really about that community building. It was about remembering the great parts of the summer. We're in the darkness, so a lot of times they had candles, so it was just a way to remind people of the warmth that was coming. There was just a lot of very, very family, and your culture, which was your small, tribe, very much about building during this time, because the darkness is not a time when people wanted to go outside. Once the sun was down, most people stayed home because you didn't go out in the dark. But now we've got all these electric lights and all this fantasy stuff we have now, which is really nice because it's allowed us to continue on. But the old traditions were about bonds of community, bonds of friendship, and bonds of family, and that's the part of so much of what was done that sort of translates into today, and why it is so important to remember to do those older celebrations and such. Rituals, that's the word. In the old times, the Celts in particular believed that evergreen trees were symbols of immortality, since they never died like all the deciduous trees would do in the winter. The Druids believed that decorating an evergreen tree was a way to bring wishes for the next year. Fruit for abundance, coins for prosperity, nuts for fertility, and this is some of the reason that they have some of the decorations, which have turned into, the fruits have turned into our glass baubles. The coins are now anything silver and gold that we hang on the tree, like tinsel used to be back in the day. And the nuts for fertility have become the smaller baubles, but the stuff that you hang on your tree, and I've been around people who do different ways. There's the 100% homegrown, everything is made by the kids or family members, it's gifted by different years, so you have this tree that shows your family. And to me, those ones are the most personal, those ones are the ones that tap into the true nature of Christmas. I've been around other people, and I had some dear friends who just passed away, where her goal, and I thought it was a little bit weird, but this was just her personality, so it's what she did. But they would get 6 or 7 of the artificial trees, and they were massive trees, and they would have one live tree. The one live tree is where all the Christmas presents went. That was the family tree. That one would have the more eclectic group of things, gifts and stuff like that for ornaments. But each of those other 6 trees would be themed for the room they were in. There was a purple tree, purple with silver. There was a blue and silver tree. There was a red tree that had gold accents. There was a gold and silver tree together, and I can't remember, I think there was a green one too. But each room that these trees went into had a themed color pattern. They were very beautiful, but to me it kind of took away from, and I know people do this, and I'm not making fun, but for me personally and how I see it, those ones are nice as accent pieces, but the heart of the Christmas tree was all handmade. It was like special gifts that you would exchange, like husband would give the wife a special ornament from something that happened that year. There's the New Year's ones, new babies, kids, all that stuff. But it was about remembering the prosperity from the year and offering wishes, dreams, and goals for the following year. So the Christmas tree held a very, very strong presence in some of the older days. And again, there's people who will dispute that. That's fine. That's what I have found, and that's what I choose to believe from what I found, because it makes it more special. So some of the other beliefs that were by bringing in a tree, holly, and mistletoe, which are 3 different things, you were inviting the blessing of the fairy clans in other nature spirits, the elementals, earth, air, fire, and water, which is the gnomes, the undines, the salamanders, and the sylphs. And those were things that you wanted to cultivate. You wanted their blessings. You wanted the protection and the support of the fairies and the elementals at that time, and the gods, of course, but you wanted their support because that helped you prosper, your village to prosper, and your country to prosper. So these were very important celebrations and steps that were being taken. Also, back in that time period, candles were used to represent the sun returning to the world and hope for a brighter tomorrow. There are still people who do this. I am so not comfortable with this one, where you put little lit candles all over the Christmas tree. Yeah, I'm good. No, I don't do that. I love Christmas lights, and I will cover my tree in lights till that thing glows like a nuclear reactor. I love the way they sparkle. I love the multicolored ones. For a time, I did the whole like single color lights for my trees, and I just went back to the old multicolors because of nostalgia. For me, that's how I was raised. But I still do single color ones at different windows and things like that when I'm really feeling the holiday spirit. So, and during this time, you will also see people putting candles in their windows. And this is a way to invite the positive spirits to come visit. Everything in the older traditions has to do with spirit, magic, gods and goddesses, things like that. So you would put the candles in your windows at night to encourage the positive angels to come, the positive spirits, family members, etc. It was a way to guide them home for the holiday, because you wanted to have their blessing, their support, and it was also a good time to remember the people who had passed. Samhain was about saying your final farewells, but this was a time of life and rebirth, so it was a time to remember those who'd passed and look forward to those who were coming. So another way, and this is something that is kind of a more modern way of doing the Christmas tree, but I have seen some pretty cool resources lately, and lately by in the last few years, that if you can get a live tree in a pot, like just the little Christmas trees, 12-inch ones or something, do that. And then in the springtime, plant the tree on your property with your wishes and hopes. You can write them on paper and plant them with the root ball, or however that works for you. But there's a couple of companies I've seen now that do rent a tree for Christmas. So you can actually rent your tree, you name your tree, and then you can keep renting the same tree. They will bring it to your home. You can have it in your house, water it, take care of it. For the month of December, they will come pick it back up and take it back to the farm. And they will do this for you, as long as you're paying your tree rent, until the tree is like 7 feet tall, 7 or 8 feet tall, something like that. It's a height requirement that they do the cutoff, at which point it is planted in a nature conservatory somewhere. And that to me is kind of a cool way of, not just cutting one down, but you can cut one down, but also have a secondary living tree, so you're giving back, even though, so. And most of your Christmas trees that you go to, like the marketplaces and stuff to buy, they are grown on specific farms for this purpose. So you're not, there's not a deforestation risk. Someone literally has offered up 100 of acres on their property strictly for that purpose. So and they cut down so many, and as they're cutting them down, they're replanting. It's a very eco-friendly, interestingly enough, way, because they keep recycling the same land and keep building more and more trees. So there's never really a depletion, that it's this kind of zero growth. They cut as many as they cut down, they replant. In most situations, I'm going to put that out there because there are some people who aren't as ethical as others. So with that, we will prepare for our meditation. Now, with that being said, as we do our meditation, and it's a guided meditation, but I also have asked the Lord and Lady to come in, and all of the angels and guides to bring a blessing for you, and it's unique to you. So as you're going through this, allow yourself to step into the meditation. It's a guided visualization, so you don't want to be driving or do anything like that, because what I try to do with these is bring you into a quiet state, and then we go into a time beyond time. This is seeing the world from a different perspective, is how I like to do this. So, and these are not deep meditations, but it is a little bit of an altering, because you're watching like a mind movie, so to speak. So you definitely want to be somewhere where you're comfortable and relaxed, and you can just listen to my voice, and if you choose to watch, that's fine too. But just let yourself go with the story and kind of experience the feeling. You might get chills, you might get warmth, and if that's what's happening, that's because your guides are coming in and supporting you as we're going through this. And as I said, I have asking that the Lord and Lady and all of the guides, guardians, and angels bring a blessing forward for you through this meditation and visualization. So with that, we will, if you would like to close your eyes, and as we're breathing deeply into our abdomen. Feel your belly expand with every inhale and contract with every exhale. Breathing in deeply, filling your abdomen with beautiful red light, that jolly Santa Claus red. And exhale, releasing all worries and stress from your day. Being in this now moment. Take another deep breath in, breathing in the beautiful color of pure white, fresh fallen snow. Let it fill you up to the brim. And as you exhale, settle into your body, into this now space. Nothing is there but you and the sound of my voice and your guides and guardians. Take one more deep breath in, breathing in that beautiful green of a fresh, bright pine tree. And exhale, bringing your attention to the center of your mind. And once you're in the center of your mind, you look around the vast room. Just take a moment to examine, how does this room within your mind look? Is it full of like computer programs or files or a library? Just kind of take it in, feeling where you're at. As you're examining this inner mind, you see a great oak door. This door has a giant ring, there's a pull knob, and black iron as its hinges. It can be as elaborate or as simple as you choose. You approach the door and touch the giant ring as it slides silently open. And as it opens, it brings a gust of cold wind with a little snow flurry. The snow swirls around your feet, and you give a little shiver from the sudden change in temperature. You step out into the snow, being robed in warmth. You walk towards the gateway of winter, This is a gateway beyond time and space. We are in a gateway of seasons. As you walk up to this gateway, it's in the form of a great stone arch, much like the archways that you see in Stonehenge. You step through this archway and you enter a circle of stones, many stone archways all around the circle. In the very center, there is a great evergreen tree. The top reaches the stars, and you can feel the roots into the very heart of the land. You start to look around and realize there are already many people gathered there from all times and many places. The clothing is from all over the world, from all over different times. There's people in leather, there's people in armor, you'll see people in suits. And as you start to wander around, you feel that warmth and the light within the stone circle. It's a very toned down light. It's not super bright, but you can see the warm faces of the people around. The clothing that you have around you is also holding in the warmth and keeping out the snow and the cold, but every so often a little gust sneaks through the stones around the circle. The atmosphere within the circle is very happy, very joyous. You hear laughter and chatter. There's a great bonfire off to one side that the kids are chasing and throwing sticks into. There's tables of food everywhere. Every spare corner of the circle, around the edge, there's tables of food. Giant cauldrons full of warm spiced drinks are scattered all about. There's spiced applesauce, mulled wine, there's mead, and all other forms, hot chocolate as well. Just everything that's warm and brings warmth and good memories back. As you wander around the circle, visiting with friends that you forgot, friends from your dreams or friends from the past, you realize exactly how deep the darkness of the night is. The moon is in the sky, and there are stars, but it's just dark. You feel the lack of the sun's warmth, even though you're in a circle with friends and family, and there's warmth within. You do notice that you're missing the sun. You begin to feel the elder gods and goddesses coming into the circle, those who are older than time itself. And as you look around the circle, you begin to notice that the circle is growing to accommodate the spiritual influx of beings. There are angels, there's guides. You see your familiar guides standing next to you, smiling as well. Eventually, the queen of the gods, the lady herself, the mother goddess of all, returns to the circle, carried in a sleigh. The last time that you saw her was at Samhain, and she was growing into an old crone and weeping over the loss of the Lord. Now she is young again, and she's very much full with child, ready to give birth and bring the sun god back to the world. You see her belly shift as the newborn babe starts to move within her. A hush falls, and she cries out, grasping her belly. All creation comes from growth and pain, and the Lord returning is a joy, but there's a little bit of growing pains. The lights and the fire dim as the lady pushes. Tears roll down her face. The darkness closes in, getting more intense. as she's pushing, trying to bring the sun and the Lord back into the world. She takes one deep breath. Suddenly, the entire circle is filled with light. The new Sun Lord has been born, returning to the land of the living. The land of the death and cold and despair has been conquered once again. The fires roar to life. All candles burn brighter than ever, flames standing tall. The tension from all the darkness, the little bit of fear, has been broken and chased back into the dark. A great cheer erupts from the crowd. You feel your own voice added. Hooray, he's back! You feel alive, more alive than you have in your memory. You see the young baby cloaked in the brilliance of the sun. You know that the darkness has been defeated for another year, and that hope in its most precious form has returned. You hear various languages break into songs. The gods and goddesses from around the universe join in. You feel songs bubbling up from within you as well. You add your voice to the choir around you as a song as old as time, a song from your heart, a song that your soul has known since you came into this world. You sing with the joy of the return of the light, the return of the Lord, the return of life itself. The young God has returned to us all, saving us from the coldness, the darkness, and the loneliness, bringing life back into the world. The mother goddess of all rests back in her sleigh. The stress and the struggle of birth has brought her tiredness, but the Lord in her arms snuggles in, bringing her joy and reviving her. The little baby falls asleep in her arms, but the sun never dims. The light glows from within his little swaddle. The sleigh, pulled by the ancient beasts, begins to leave the circle, returning to the mists, to the home of the Lady and the Lord, the veil between worlds where the gods and goddesses reside. She leaves from the circle, and as she leaves, you notice the other spiritual beings are bidding their goodbyes. The guides and guardians are offering words of advice, little hugs, support, and blessings. The guides and guardians leave at this time, and you notice that the stone circle has returned to the original size when you arrived. The joy that you feel is overflowing, and you look around the circle at the other celebrants. Everyone's face is glowing as it was touched by the light from the newborn Lord. After a time, you feel a slight tug in your heart, calling you to return to the now moment, to the present. You say your goodbyes to your new friends and your old acquaintances as you turn to leave through the gateway of winter. As you step back through the stones into the swirling snow outside, you glow from the blessing from the Lord of Light. You carry this joy with you as you return through the snowing bluster, seeing that light of the great oak door. You step back through and the door slowly closes behind you. You're back in the center of your mind, but you've brought more with you. You're warm, you're light. There's power in the ceremonies and rituals. And you've brought that sun back with you. You know that everything's going to be okay, even though the darkness, for a time, you thought would win, but now you know it will not. Feeling that warmth and that smiling sun feeling, you begin to settle back into your body, into this now moment. Taking a deep breath in, breathing in that beautiful white light, anchoring it into your body as you exhale, feeling relaxed and at peace. Take another deep breath in, breathing in that beautiful solar light, and exhale, feeling yourself back in your body. Flex your hands and feet, wiggle your fingers. Breathing in one more deep breath in. Exhale, releasing the vision but not the blessing. You may rest in this space for a time as you return back into the land. Remember, you have been blessed by the Lord and Lady, by your guides, guardians, and angels. And take that blessing and share it with those around. A simple smile, a quiet word of appreciation goes a very long ways in most cases. Have a great rest of your holiday season and a very blessed Yule to one and all.